Hi, gorgeous, and welcome to the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Show. I am Dorit Palvanov, your host, feminine energy expert, health coach for women, registered holistic nutritionist, and the creator of the groundbreaking health and mindset program for moms, Energized, designed for perimenopausal women who are done having kids and are ready to get their confidence, energy, and sexy back. Ladies, think about it. What would the world look like if, as women, we stopped being so harsh on ourselves and instead felt more energized, powerful, confident, and more connected to our bodies? What if, as women, we honored the fact that we are built and wired differently than men, and being different does not mean being inferior? That the go, go, go mentality, alongside doing more to have more without ever pausing and resting, only leads to chronic stress, anxiety, burnout, overwhelm, lack of joy, and corrodes our health, relationships, and vitality. What if, as women, wives, and mothers, we had the courage and confidence to desire more? More freedom, power, energy, joy, abundance, pleasure, fun, play, and sex, all on our own terms. Mama, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to form healthy relationships, and your body needs, craves, and deserves pleasure. This is your birthright. You're here because you believe in your feminine energy. You're here because you care about health and the environment, and you're not afraid to take action and change. You're here because you don't want to pass on a pattern of self destruction, hiding, and not speaking your truth to your daughters. You're here because you're done feeling stuck, living a mediocre life as a half woman. You're here because you are done struggling and, frankly, can no longer afford to feel like crap. Each week, I will be here for you, dropping a healthy dose of inspiration and motivation, as well as introducing you to my brilliant guests, where we will dive deep into all things womanhood, feminine power, energy, psychology, holistic and alternative health, food, nutrition, hormones, fitness, mindset, motherhood, relationships, sex, business, and much more. So, Mama, are you ready to take back control of your health? Let's do this. Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to another episode of the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Show. How are you today, my love? I hope you're doing great. I hope the kids are doing amazing too. We are in March officially. Um, and this is basically the end of the first quarter of 2020. How is it going? I hope you're on check with your goals, with your intentions, with your desires, and everything is working out exactly the way you have planned them to work. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. We're all growing, we're all evolving, and that's okay. So much of growth and expansion, especially in motherhood, is really redefining our relationship with time. So, from what I'm learning, there are really different ways to create an understanding of time. There is one is the understanding of time as a linear thing, meaning looking at your schedule, and for example, between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. is the time I'm making, my kids' lunches. I get everybody ready, and we're getting dressed and all of that. It's like the logistics of the day, and then from 8 to 9 o'clock, I take the kids to school, and then from 9 till 3, this is my work day, and then so on and so forth, right? So you're basically looking at your schedule and filling in the blocks of time with your activities, with whatever it is that you're doing in a day. So that's one way to look at time. the other way is to look at time in terms of a chronos time. And that is, when I learned about that, I learned about it from Kate Northrup, and I love her book, Do Less. And the way she explains it is that chronos time it's a very different perception of time. So for example, let's say, let's think of 5 minutes when you woke up today in the morning. So the 5 minutes, when you just, opened your eyes, maybe you went to the bathroom, you peed, and, you basically can kind of like quantify how, what happened during this time. Versus, right? So that would be like the more of like the linear perception of time. Versus in chronos time, think about the first 5 minutes when you first held your baby, when he or she were born. So in chronos time, you would the same 5 minutes, right? But they would feel totally different. They would feel like time stands by and this moment is being stretched forever. And I think this is especially in my experience, and growing and evolving, and doing personal development, and constantly bettering myself, and bringing more of bringing more of my health mission into my home, and quote unquote infecting everybody with it. I would like to have a different relationship with time. I would like to have a more deep and centered and kind of like long-lasting perception of time. And of course, it's not going to happen every time and all the time, but the majority of the time, if I can completely redefine my relationship with time, this is what I want, which is why for me, learning to live in alignment with my menstrual cycle and living in alignment with my feminine current, it had completely changed my life and the lives of my clients as well. Because once you understand how that works and how your body is very cyclical, then you have more chances and opportunities for chronos time versus the linear sense of time. So that's a little nugget of wisdom for you out there. I hope you think take a moment to think about it and really sit with this, and know that it is possible to change how you perceive time, because so much of how we show up in our life is kind of in response to time. So I know for myself, for example, I'm going to give you a really great example. So this week, my husband and I, we're just getting ready for bed. It was around 11 p.m. And all of a sudden we've heard like a big bang coming from outside. And so we open the window, we look outside, and we see like a water pipe, a central water pipe right, on our street exploded, and the water was just like gushing out of it. And so in that moment, we lost electricity and we didn't have any water. So that was for 24 hours. And so it was night, whatever, we went to bed. In the morning, we woke up, and it was kind of fun because we were kind of like, we have a real fireplace at home. So my husband, started lighting the fire to keep us all warm. And it's the winter time here, so it's pretty cold. And we didn't have water. So thank goodness I have the Berkey filter. So that one was full. So we've heated up this water, and I have a gas stove. So I was able to have still hot water. It did take some time and planning and preparation, but it was still really fun. But the point that I want to share with you is that I didn't know what the time was. Yes, I had my cell phone with me, but I don't, when my kids are around, especially in the morning, I rarely have the chance to look at the phone. And so I didn't have I usually, kind of like I have a clock in my kitchen. And so every once in a while I kind of like peek at the time and see, just to keep myself in check and make sure that I'm on time. But this time I didn't have it. So because my clock is It's digital. And so anyways, the beauty was that um I felt like we're totally late. We're going to be late to school. We're going to be late for everything. And I was kind of like, I was okay with it. Usually I get anxious and nervous, but this time I said, you know what? This is what it is. It's a sign from God. And I'm just going to, cruise with it. But then I looked at the time on my cell phone and I was surprised that I was actually like earlier. And that really surprised me. And so during this whole time, as I was kind of like, recounting and reliving it in my head, I realized that I was living more in Cronus time. I was living more kind of like, it was like a timelessness feeling to it. And I think this is something that all of us should be having more in our life, because being constantly living constantly linearly and being constantly on a go, it's taxing to our nervous system. It's anxiety inducing. So many mamas are really struggling with not feeling present, and then the ramifications of that is feeling out of control. And then our little kids are suffering. They're struggling. So I see more and more people with, behavioral issues, struggling with school or having like learning disabilities, like all of this stuff. They're all related, and I want you to really own your part in this equation. And I know that, I remember myself, every time one of my kids are struggling, the first thing I want to do is I want to hide, and it's natural and it's normal. But really, after this pity party, I tried to come back and remind myself that it is my job, that I have to rise. It's really my opportunity to play the game fully. And my part in this equation is to make sure that at home I am creating an environment that is calm, that is soothing, that is conducive of play, and as much as I can, so that my kids and my home and my family life and the people who I love the most feel wrapped with warmth and just my motherly love. And this is your superpower. It totally is your superpower. Speaking of superpower, today on a show, I have a fun conversation. I've decided to call this episode How a Working Mama is RVing Around the US with 4 kids. Yes, you've heard that right. Today on the show, we are going to slightly steer from the typical conversations that we're having on this show and get a sneak peek into the life of a breadwinner / working mom and how she's traveling around the US with her family for over 6 months. If that's not a superpower, I don't know what is. So we're talking with Meg Brunson today. She is a mommy blogger turned Facebook employee who left the 9 to 5 for a life of freedom and flexibility. She's currently RVing across the US with her family while empowering other families to live their dreams by pursuing their passions together. Her clients are building influence online, leveraging the power of Facebook and Instagram marketing to enjoy predictable leads, traffic, and positive ROI, all while spending more time making happy memories together as familypreneurs. Meg is a professional speaker, children's book author, host of the FamilyPreneur podcast, and CEO of EIEIO Marketing. And I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. So, highlights from today's episode. So you'll hear Meg sharing her story and her belief in family and entrepreneurship, how in 6 months they visited 30 states, driven 20,000 miles, and had so many amazing experiences as a family. I've asked her a question of what if I want to travel more, and how do I make this actually sustainable for myself. So I loved how she redefines travel and what it means to you. And if it means so much to you, then how to make it happen. She also mentioned homeschooling while RVing. She has 4 kids, so all of them are homeschooled while they're going through this adventure. We also talked about reintegrating kids back into the schooling system after this experience, after this journey, how they handle weather fluctuations while RVing. We also talked about the not so fun things of RVing, like cleaning poop, showering, tire popping, and in the middle of the road. So it's not always rainbows and kitty cats. So we talked about that too. We talked about working and staying productive while RVing. Like I mentioned, Meg is a breadwinner. She's a working mom, and she can't stop working. So then we talked about how she's actually getting this done. We talked about how to afford all of this travel. We talked about food options and eating healthy while traveling. And I even asked her a juicy question, which you are all probably thinking is, how do they have sex in the RV while the kids are there? Like, that to me is question number one. So I loved her answer. And also at the very end, she answered my favorite questions, all about her as a woman. She shared what makes her feel confident, energized, and sexy, and all the other goodies. This is a fun but also informative episode, especially if you have a desire to travel more but hold yourself back due to fear of the unknown, like money, kids, work, all that stuff. You know me, I make sure all of my interviews are fun and engaging, but this one will definitely sound like eavesdropping on a conversation between two mamas. I hope you enjoy it. Without further ado, here's my interview with Meg Brunson. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Show. This is Dorit Palvanova, your host. I am so excited for today's conversation. We have Meg Brunson with us. And Meg is kind of like a multi-passionate entrepreneur slash mom slash wife slash traveler slash explorer. Meg the Explorer, with the new movie that is going out to theaters. So Meg, why don't you tell my audience who you are? Tell us about your family. Tell us about the situation you are. How did it all begin with you? You know what? Maybe I should give a little context. But we've connected with Meg, I think about a month ago, where she interviewed me for her podcast. And right before you interviewed me, you sent out an email saying that you've been RVing with your family for the past 6 months. And I was like, wait, what? And I knew that you have 4 kids. And I know that you are also a girl mom like I am. And that was so intriguing to me. So intriguing. And so we started talking, and I am so excited that you agreed to come on my show and share your experience about traveling with the family, how to make it affordable, and all that stuff. So I hope that today's conversation, for those of you who are listening and have, been dreaming of traveling, and maybe in a non-traditional kind of way, then this conversation is definitely going to be super fun and useful and all of this good stuff. All right, so now you take the microphone and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I love the intro, and I feel like it's totally on point because I always say that I'm multi-passionate. I have multiple projects going on at any given time, and it's been that way for as long as I can remember. I've always been somebody who likes to be busy and has a lot of ideas. So I consider myself a creative too. So basically, Gosh, I've gone through a lot of, I guess, adversity in my life. You know, my dad died when I was young. I had my own near death experience with my third pregnancy, twice actually in the same pregnancy. So I've had a lot of realizations that, you know, time is precious, life is short. We don't know how much time we have, and we need to make the most out of it. And those experiences are what pushed me into, you know, leaving the corporate world, because I was raised, right? You go to school, you get a job, you climb the ladder, you retire, and you're secure. And it pushed me to leave that corporate world because I was tired of giving my time to other people. Pushed me into becoming an entrepreneur, which is the ultimate form of risk taking. And then from there has just continuously pushed me to dig deep and figure out what I want out of life, and not to wait to get it, to just do it. So travel was one of those things. Both my husband and I were raised, I'd say middle class, but also like the lower end of middle class. So like we didn't take a lot of vacations as kids, either one of us. And even now, I mean, 6 months ago, as adults, we've lived in 3 places, you know, New York, Arizona, and Washington, D.C. And it's like, those were just, the DC was even before we met. It was, you know, a different time in our lives. So we both had lived in those 3 places, but neither one of us had traveled outside of there. So again, travel was just something I really wanted to do. And we were renting in Arizona. And I said, you know, what if we just bought this RV and traveled the United States? People are doing it. Like I knew of people who were doing this. And he said, no, I was a Boy Scout. I camped enough. I never want to go camping again. And I knew this about him, but to me, it wasn't camping. It was RVing, and they're different things. Like I wouldn't want to be in a tent, but in an RV, I feel a little more homey. So I ultimately was able to convince him, because I let him know, you know, how important it was to me, which he's a great guy, and ultimately was like, well, if it's important to you, then I'm on board. But I also it told him that it would be a great experience because we're at this point where we're ready to settle down. Like we want the house and the yard. And, you know, we moved to Arizona 4 years ago and we rented because we didn't want to buy right away, but now we're kind of ready to buy. But how do we know where we want to be until we see everything? So we're using this as an experience to figure out where we want to settle down, but also a learning experience for all of us, because there is so much to see and so much to learn. And in 6 months, we have visited 30 states, which feels crazy and still unbelievable even to me, who's done it. We've driven, oh gosh, I want to say about 20,000 miles, and had so many amazing experiences. I can't even begin to I can't even begin to summarize it all in one podcast episode.
So okay. I mean, we're going to deconstruct it, and hopefully I can lead you into a somewhat cohesive way to share your experience. So, okay. So first of all, I have to say, I absolutely love the fact that you guys are challenging the quote unquote status quo of settling first and then starting a family. It sounds like you guys have done it all backwards. Like you started a family, and only now, after your family, you have 4 kids, right? And you guys are married and you have this beautiful family. Only now you're considering settling down, which I think it's really amazing. The next thing that I'm thinking, and I know my listeners are thinking as well, is what do you do with the kids? Because I mean, for me, travel, and you talked about this earlier, it really redefining travel. And I think so many of us, especially when we become moms, and because we're already quote unquote settled and we are totally nesting, there is this longing for, I should be traveling more. I want to travel more. Like for me, I know I have this desire. But the really, like, the thing that stops me, it's the kids. Like, what do I do with the kids? So tell us, what do you guys do with the kids?
So we talked to them about it before we actually hit the road. I feel like that was number one, is we let them know what we were planning and how that would affect their lives. The older three. So my kids right now are, here we go. How old are they? 4, 6, 8, and 12. So my older three were in school, kindergarten, second grade, and fifth grade. Isn't this funny? I have to try to remember. I feel like it's been so long ago.
It's been such a long time ago.
So they were in school. So we had to talk about what that would look like. And now it's, I don't know. I feel like when they were in school, this might sound terrible, but I'm hoping that you guys can understand as moms. So when they were in school, I would dread things like school breaks, because it's like, they're going to be home for 2 weeks. What am I going to do? Do you know what I mean? It's not like I don't want to spend time with them, but you like, I don't want to make it.
I know exactly what you mean. And I think each one of the listeners, especially when, we get the into school time. Yes. The winter break, the midwinter break, and then the holidays. My kids go to a Hebrew school. So they're like the Jewish holidays, and then there are the statutory holidays. And before you know it, they're home all the freaking time. So I get that.
So we're not homeschoolers. Like, we're public schoolers. We're take my kids for 6 hours a day so I can get some peace and quiet. Yeah. That's the kind of family we are. So this was definitely like oh my gosh, and I'm going to have my children all the time. But yeah. I don't know, like being in it, I don't miss that. I feel like every day is very predictable, because we always have them. It's not like we don't get that dread because we don't get the breaks. And maybe that sounds bad, but it's not bad. So the kids, we're still doing educational activities. So they have reading on their tablets. They each got like an Amazon Kids Fire tablet. So they're not like super expensive or anything. They're not like iPads. But they have reading activities on their tablet. They have school workbooks and math workbooks, which luckily they just kind of enjoy doing. And then our other like schooling is from what we do. So we don't really teach in the RV. We don't teach them science and social studies and history. We do that stuff through wherever we are and whatever we're doing. So we always scope out national parks. Today we happen to be in San Antonio, Texas. And as soon as we're done with this interview, we're going to be getting ready to go to the Alamo, which has, I have to be honest, I don't know a ton about the history, but there's history there with like the Texas-Mexican War or something like that. I don't really know because I'm not typically from Texas. So in New York, we didn't really learn that much about the Alamo. And so I'm going to learn right along with my kids, but that's kind of what the lesson is going to be today. But when we're in the Evergreens, we learned about the ecosystems in the Evergreens or in the Everglades. When we just learn as we go, and the kids write about that stuff and talk about that stuff. And so that's kind of how we're handling school. It's road schooling. We're learning from experiences while on the road. The RV has electronics. We have a television. The kids have games. Like we've picked out games that are easy to kind of pack up. I don't know if you visited or you have Cracker Barrels. I don't know if they're in Canada. But it's one of our favorite restaurants, Cracker Barrel, and it has like these lots of old-fashioned games. So they have like a really big checkers set and like a little peg game with golf pegs. So we have a lot of those kind of easy to travel with games in the RV. Lots of books, and the kids each have like a box of toys that they're able to put in their bunk. The bunks are rather big so that they've got their own toys and stuff with them. And wherever we go, there's outside room for them to play. So we always stay, I mean, not always, but most of the time we're staying somewhere that has a yard or an area where the kids can get out and play. And so they still get a ton of outdoor time. And I don't know, I think for what it is, for traveling full time, they have a lot of opportunities to play and interact with each other. The challenge can be getting them time to play and interact with other children. That's definitely the biggest challenge.
Okay, I have to say,
I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah. And I wanted to expand a little bit on that. So it's from what I know, and I don't know, from what it sounds like this is the best schooling that there is, because this is actual interactive, engaged learning. And it's real, as opposed to, sitting on a desk and learning the theory of NASA and the science and space. So I think this is absolutely amazing. But do you guys ever think about how you're going to reintegrate them back into the schooling system? Is this even something because it sounds like you are looking for to settle down, so eventually they will go back into the school system. So how are you managing to go through that?
And that's a great question, and it's one that I feel like I can only halfway answer. It's funny, we're living a lot of our life right now based on the present, and not spending too much time worrying about the future, which I know, you have to in some respect. So when we started this journey, we were like, we're going to do it for a year. That's what we're going to do, is 1 year. That was the agreement. That was the plan. That's what we told the kids. That's what we told everybody. And then as we're going, it's like, okay, I don't think we're going to be able to do everything we want to do in a year. Like, I don't even know if we can get all 50 states in a year. And you may think, well, you've done 30 in 6 months, so of course you can get the rest of them. There's 50 states, but only 48 are like connected. So we're only trying to do those 48. But we did a lot of the little states. So we have some big states left to get through and travel through. And we're trying to avoid bad weather. So we may not be able to do it all within a 12-month period. So then we kind of were like, well, we'll just extend it, maybe 3 months, 5 months, whatever. Well, as we've been traveling, we're realizing that there's some areas that we're going through rather quickly. We went through Louisiana really quick. We spent a couple days in New Orleans. We spent a day, I can't even remember the name of the town, but it was kind of just in the middle of the boot, if you will. I don't know. And it wasn't until we got to Texas that we were like, oh my gosh, we never had a beignet, which is like really a popular New Orleans like food, dessert. And I'm like, well, I guess we have to go back. Like that's just one of the areas we're going to have to go back. So now we started talking about, after our year is over, maybe we'll do this another year, have a second year. And that second year, instead of trying to like go through and hit and see everything, we'll keep track of the areas that we really enjoyed, that we could potentially see ourselves settling down in, or the things that we kind of missed doing for whatever reason. And then we'll spend more time in those areas. So our plans are kind of just fluid, and they're adjusting as we go. I think that also, having done this, when we do settle down, we'll be able to give our kids some more options. Like, we can let them all go back to public school, and if it's not for them, I have one kiddo who I just think might do better in a homeschooling situation, but I've never felt equipped to homeschool her. And after this experience, I mean, granted, if we're settled, we can't quite go out into the States as much as we have, but it's given me a little more confidence in my ability to teach them. Just because I'm not a teacher doesn't mean I cannot educate my children. So I think it actually has opened up more doors once we do settle down. We're big on just communicating with the kids ahead of time. So we'll talk about the decision to settle down and what that's going to look like, and give them some options, and we'll kind of just adapt as we need to. So I guess I don't really know how that process is going to look, but I'm confident that we'll be able to handle it,
Yeah. Can you give me just 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The weirdest thing just happened. My phone podcast app just got turned on. It started talking. And I'm like, what is that? Crazy. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so let's continue. So you are saying that, and I love that, because it really, like, even just hearing this, it kind of like sends calming messages to my nervous system, because it just shows me how much of like how rigid my thinking is around travel. Like, because we have friends who, when they do travel, most of the time it's, no, all the time, it's, the airplane, and then they stay in a hotel or the resort, and then they come back. Like, that is the definition of like a vacation with the family. So, and you don't get that a lot, people who vacation or travel or experience the world like you guys do, and it's so refreshing, and hearing that you guys are doing this with the kids and that you guys are alive. and you're not like, and you haven't gotten completely insane. It sounds like actually the opposite happened. It sounds like you just, like you said, you feel more confident, you feel more just maybe relaxed. Talk to me about, so you mentioned weather. And before we started recording, you mentioned how you guys avoided a tornado. Like, how do you guys, in terms of weather in different places, how do you guys prepare for that?
Yeah, so I do want to make sure that it's clear that this is not all rainbows and butterflies, right? Like, travel, like we've had such a great experience, but it's only because the good super outweighs the bad. I've got just as many, not just
so
as many.
Okay, so I want you to talk about the bad. Like, I want you to be super honest about the quote unquote bad, because yes, from what you're saying, it sounds like, because you're highlighting all the good stuff. But I really, and I think the listeners would also appreciate if you say like all the negative things. Maybe not all, a few.
So, I mean, and weather's definitely been one of them. Like, that's one of those scary things, right? Like, in the United States, there's a lot of natural disasters. There are hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes and blizzards. And I'm sure there's other things I'm missing. But we don't want to experience those. So we've tried to plan our trip around them, right? So we know when hurricane season is, we know when tornado season is, we know what, and we know when the snow falls up north, and we're just trying to avoid all that the best we can. Now, weather, unfortunately, doesn't really care about calendars. It doesn't really care about our plans. So, I mean, we planned on avoiding snow, and we found ourselves in Nashville, and it snowed in Nashville, and we had ice, and we had to quickly figure out, what does our RV need? Like, we have water pipes. Are they going to freeze? We don't want our water pipes to freeze. This is not something we had really prepared for. We thought we would just avoid snow. And we actually had, I'm pretty sure it was a direct result of the freezing temperatures, is that our water pump broke because there was freezing, and part of it's plastic, and it cracked. So basically what that means is that we would only have water if we were connected physically to a water source. So typically we have what's called a freshwater tank, and we'll fill it with water. I don't know exactly how much it holds. That's kind of falls into my husband's, we split a lot of responsibilities, so that's part of his responsibility, but it holds a ton of water. I don't know, 40 gallons or 100 gallons or something like that. I don't know. So we fill that tank up, and then there's a pump that lets you use that water. So no matter where we are, we have access to water in the faucets. But with our pump being broken, we now don't have that anymore. So that happened in November, I believe, is when it snowed. Just before, it was before Thanksgiving. So that was not planned for. We had to fix the water pump. Now, none of us know how to fix a water pump, but we're also frugal. So my husband had to watch YouTube videos and figure out how to fix the water pump, and we had to go buy a new one. And it took a day for him to do all the things he needed to do, but he fixed it. And now he feels like he's learning so much about RV repair, which I know maybe that's not a skill you really care about. But but there's something for him that he just loves being handy. That's part of his, personality. I know every guy's different, but it's given him his own sense of I don't know, usefulness or purpose or something. So he enjoys that. But we found ourselves recently in the path of a tornado. We got a tornado warning, and we were like, oh, shoot, what do? We definitely don't want to be in an RV when a tornado comes, right? So it was this quick texting. We're staying on somebody's property and their house is on the property. So we texted the people. This story, I could tell a whole podcast episode on how terrifying this experience was. But basically, the guy said, you can come down to the house if you feel unsafe. And it didn't feel unsafe outside until it did. So it was like super calm. And then all of a sudden there were 50-mile-per-hour winds and it was dark and terrifying. We woke up the kids from a dead sleep. Like one of my kiddos didn't even have pants on. Like she's sleeping in shirt and panties. And we just grabbed our kids as they were. And we ran through the dark and the wind and the rain towards this house, hoping that we wouldn't get sucked up by a tornado. And everything was fine, by the way. But we've also had we had a tire blowout on the expressway.
Oh my gosh.
Just totally shred to pieces. And we were on the side of the road for 4 hours waiting for that to get repaired. So that was not the best. You
also shared with me the emptying of the poop thingy.
Oh yeah. and that's like an everyday thing. I mean, not every day, but that's like a once a week thing. And you've got a bathroom in the RV, right? But there's no like plumbing. Like it doesn't automatically go anywhere. Yeah. It goes into a tank. So underneath the RV is it's called a black water tank. So you have a black water tank and a gray water tank. The gray water is like your dishwater, your bath water, the water that's like dirty but not waste, human waste. And then the black tank is the human waste. So that's the toilet water. Yeah. Like the dirty toilet water. So it's the pee and the poop and all that stuff. You have to use special toilet paper. So you can't just use like your Charmin from home. You have to use RV toilet paper because it dissolves faster and is better for the tank. So you fill up this tank full of your human waste, and then and I don't want to say once a week and have you think it definitely once. It depends upon how much waste you produce when the tank gets full. And you have to connect it. How do you know?
Is there like an indicator?
There's a sensor. Yeah, there's a sensor. But you have to, it's like a big hose that you connect to like the tanks, and you connect it to a sewer access. And then you open the tank and the hose just dumps all the poop into the sewer. So you empty the black water first. So it's all the waste water. And then you empty the gray water. So it helps rinse out the tube. I don't even know what it's called. The dump tube. Somebody else is going to be listening to this who's an RVer, and there's probably an official name, like it's the dump tube. I don't know, but it rinses that out, and then you can flush it if you want with some fresh water too, just to rinse that tube out. But it's a dirty job.
Yeah, I can. It sounds very dirty and stinky too.
My husband does it. Okay. That's one of his responsibilities.
And then I assume there is a kitchen. Is there a shower in the RV?
Yeah, so every RV is a little different. But we have, it's like a little bathtub and a shower. So we do have a bathtub. We can't put like both the kids in like we could at home, but we can do one little kiddo at a time. And there is a shower. It is a little small. I'm a pretty big girl, how tall am I? 5'10". I weigh a little more than I should. So it's a little bit of a tight fit in there for me, but I can do it. Yeah. And the shower, what is it called? The shower head comes off. So that's helpful too, because the shower head is definitely too low for me. I'm sure we could raise that. I'm sure that's one of those like home improvement projects we could do. But typically I just leave it and I take it off and, take it off and use it to like rinse my hair off and stuff like that. So
and when you're RVing, I have to ask, can you afford to shower every day? Or is this like, we don't have enough water? No, let's do it like in a couple of days. Like how do you guys do that?
So there's a couple answers. And it depends. When we're at like an RV park, which we do stay at RV parks sometimes, it's easy to shower every day because you've got water hookups and you've got a dump hookup. We will often also stay at RV parks that actually have shower facilities. So they'll have, like, you can actually go shower in just their shower, which is typically a little more elbow room. It's a little hit or miss though. Sometimes you get like a very well kept campground, and other times you get campgrounds that like the showers have spiders in them, and you're like, oh no, that's not happening. So we definitely don't get to shower every day. That doesn't happen. Like right now, we do have water in a dump here, and it's really more about the amenities, right? So if we need to have enough water, and we need to have somewhere for that water to go. The other thing is, I can't remember what they call it, but you can take like adapted showers. So like you just don't leave the water running the whole time, which is probably better for the environment anyhow. So like you get in, you get wet, you turn the water off. You suds up, the water's off, you suds up. You turn the water on, you rinse off. You know what I mean? Like it's on and off. So you're not using as much water and you're not wasting as much water. So that's a trick too. And typically we'll shower, we'll do like everybody's showers at the end of a stay to like fill up the tank and allow it, before we dump. I hope that kind of answers it. So it's definitely not, we definitely don't do the types of showers that we did when we were in a house and we could shower every day.
And I mean, for me, and even thinking about turning the water on and then turning it off, soaping, and then turning it on, I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds no, but I guess, it's the frugality, but also what's the word for it? Stoicism. How do you pronounce this word? Because I feel
I don't know.
Like it's putting yourself in situations that are not as convenient. And I think what it does, it's like a muscle. It helps you to become more resourceful, to become more creative, and to become like, no, I can do anything I want. It's really all a matter of like figuring things out. So
and the other thing that
amazing.
Oh, sorry. The other thing that we've done is we've done a little more like sponge baths, so like at night we'll have the kids just like do a quick sponge bath, at the sink. My oldest daughter is 12, and she'd probably be mortified if I talked about this, but she's going through puberty, so she can be a little stinky. So but we actually found at Walmart, they have like right in the deodorant section, they have like wipes, like deodorant wipes or cleansing wipes. So we bought some of those to try out too, and they're helping her feel more confident.
Good.
In between showers, like in between full showers, because I feel like the sponge baths, they work all right for the little kids, and they even work all right for my husband and I, but for some reason it's got to be the hormones. She struggles with it, so those little wipes have given her some of that confidence, because they just give her a refresh, and she can use them whenever she needs them. So that's been helpful too. That's one of those like newer discoveries for her.
And then tell us about, as far as it goes, because this is the podcast for women, and we talk a lot about womanhood, and we talked about this on your podcast. When it comes to getting your period and menstruation, like how do you handle? I mean, we can talk about the logistics of it, but also like energetically speaking, like the low energy and the need to kind of, to seclude a little bit and kind of like, be away from everybody. How does that work for you?
So the logistics, I feel like are totally fine and normal. I mean, we don't flush any of that stuff anyhow. So it's like, we don't have to worry about it clogging our septic systems. We just throw all of that away. Pads, tampons, etc. We just throw that away. But that hasn't I feel like logistically it hasn't posed any issues there. As far as the time alone, so right now I'm sitting in my bedroom because I don't have an office anymore, right, to record podcasts. So I sit in my bedroom, and it's got 2 sliding doors. It's not soundproof, but it's got 2 sliding doors, so I've got my own little space right now to chat with you. I come in here a lot when I need time, but we also make this room available if a kiddo needs time away too. So I will frequently have a child in here with me who just wants to spend time with me while I work, or who just needs a break from her sisters. And then all of the girls have a room in the back of the RV. So this is the front of the RV, and in the back of the RV is our kids' room. It originally had sleeping for 5, but we removed one of the trundle beds and put some extra storage in there, because we obviously don't need 5 beds, but kids need storage. So they each have their own bunk, and I made them each a curtain. So again, it's not perfect. They don't have their own rooms. They share a room, but they each have a curtain that they are in control of. So they can go into their bed, they can close their curtain, and they can have alone time. And we've just enforced, and the kids accept it all. I mean, it hasn't been a huge struggle, but like that they're in charge of their curtains. So if they want alone time, they get alone time. And you ask before you open a curtain, and you ask before you go into somebody else's bed. And so they're really good about all that stuff. But I will sometimes go in there, and my 8-year-old will be in her bed with her curtain closed, and she just wanted some alone time, and she might take her tablet in there, she might take a book in there. They don't eat in there, but they can't eat in their alone time, but they can do other things. So they do get they have some privacy in their rooms.
Love it. Talk to me about, so I know you're an entrepreneur. I know you own a business. How do you do that while traveling? I mean, I know that there is internet now everywhere, but for me, and I guess that's another quote unquote weakness of mine. And that I assume you've kind of strengthened that muscle in yourself, to be able to just work and be productive just about anywhere. But talk to me about how like you sometimes mentally you need to kind of like separate work from family. Like how does that happen? How does that happen in this experience?
Yeah. So I feel like there's a couple things I want to touch on here. First of all is the technology. So like you said, they do have technology. We have a hotspot. We bought it through a company called OTR, which stands for On the Road Mobile. And they specifically are marketing towards traveling families or traveling entrepreneurs. So that uses AT&T towers to get its Wi-Fi. And then our phones are through Verizon. So now we always have an AT&T and a Verizon option, which is nice because sometimes we do stay in an area that only has, like we've stayed in areas that only have Verizon, and we've stayed in areas that only have AT&T. Just, it depends upon where you're staying. There've been some places that we stay that, like right now, is perfectly fine. Like I don't have any connectivity issues. There have been other places where I can't get a connection to save my life. And I think the first time we chatted was one of those situations where I actually had to go to a McDonald's. And I found a table like as far back as I could, and that's where we recorded our podcast interview. I think that was you, but I might be wrong.
It was me. I remember that.
Yeah. So do I. The big lettuce behind me. Like it was a big but and it's also, it's been a learning experience. So part of the bad, I guess it is when we just started. So 6 months ago, we hit the road, and I feel like I wasn't in balance right away. So it's really easy with this lifestyle to just think that you're on a permanent vacation because you're going somewhere new every however often. Now, we travel much faster than most full-time families that I know of. So, I mean, I've talked to people who are full-time RVers, and they're like, whoa, you're speeding through there. And it's because we're trying to hit all these places. There's a lot of full-time RVers who stay 2 weeks here, 3 weeks there, 2 weeks there, and we're like 5 days tops, and we're on to the next place. So that was a decision we made. But there's other ways to travel as well. But when you're going somewhere new every 5 days or every week, it's super easy to just want to see all the sights and be a tourist. And then you're like, oh shoot, I didn't do any work this week. And I wouldn't say it was ever that bad. Like I didn't do any work, but I got into a point where I was handling my client work, right? Because like people pay me and I guess I haven't really talked about what my job is, so maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
What I offer. Back it up, Meg. So basically, I worked at Facebook for a while, and I left Facebook about 3 years ago. So since I left Facebook, I've been offering Facebook marketing services to entrepreneurs and small business owners. And I focus specifically on family first businesses. So those are typically parents themselves who are, trying to build a business to have more freedom and flexibility with their kids, or they're businesses who are targeting families. So it's kind of twofold. But I love the mommy market, and I love working with other moms. So that's kind of my my sweet spot. So people pay me to run Facebook marketing campaigns for them. So that's just a quick overview of what I do. So obviously I have clients that are paying me to run their ads. So I would do the work I needed to do for them, right? So make sure that my clients are happy first, do all my traveling, and then not have any time for anything else. Then the next week I would do all my client work, do all my traveling, and not have time for anything else. Before I knew it, I wasn't recording podcast episodes. I wasn't really blogging as much anymore. I wasn't focused on the growth of my business. I was focused on my clients, but not on like getting new clients. Do you know what I mean? I was working in my business, but I wasn't working on my business. And I realized that before we got in the RV, I was very focused on working on my business. Like I said, I've always been multi-passionate. I've always had tons of ideas, and I was getting too distracted by traveling. So I had to really take a step back and think about what my goals were with traveling, what my goals were for my business, and how I was going to make those fit within each other. So now I've dialed back the number of days that we'll do activities in a new place. So we'll typically, like, we're in San Antonio for 5 days. There's one day that we're planning to like spend the whole day out and about, and that's today. We're going to go do the Alamo and do some other sightseeing downtown. But we've had a couple days where I've been here and they've been work days, and they're not all work days. Yesterday was a work day. And I finished up around 3:00 in the afternoon, and we went and saw Frozen 2 at the movie theater. So it's like, I don't want to make it sound like, we don't do anything, but I'm very intentional about having that time to work, and then I can get more nitty gritty on exactly what tasks I'm going to be working on. So it's building in some more of those things. And when you talked about needing to separate, because I get that way sometimes too. I'm launching a new program soon, and I needed to write a sales page, which is not intuitive for me. Like when I'm writing something like that, I really need to not be distracted, right? Like I can't have kids coming in and asking me questions all the time. Where some other things I can, it's easy for me to flip through those. So situations like that, I just go somewhere else. If it's a nice day, I can go work outside. I can always bring my hotspot with me, which has been really nice. When we were in New York, I got some work done in the middle of Central Park with my hotspot, and usually though, I'll go to a McDonald's or a Starbucks. Those are kind of my two go-tos, because there's typically one around no matter where you are. Within a half hour or so, you can get to a McDonald's or a Starbucks. So I will bring my headphones. I put on, right now I'm really into like Lindsay Sterling. She does like the violin, but like cool violin music. I'll put on some like instrumental music. So I'm not going to be singing along. It's just kind of background music. I turn that up so it drowns out some of the background noise. And then I will position myself in the restaurant into a place where I'm not going to be distracted. So typically like facing the corner or something like that, so I'm not distracted by the world around me. And I will get work done there, and then you can work off their internet. So I just connect to the free internet at Starbucks or McDonald's. Get work done there.
It's I love how you said that it took some time, like it took some time for you to kind of like find that balance or that rhythm for you to be able to work while being on the road. I'm thinking about myself, it would probably take me just like about maybe 2 to 3 weeks just to kind of like get into the mindset of, okay, this is not happening just for a week or 2 weeks and then I'm going to be back to my routine. It's going to be ongoing, so I need to to adapt myself. And this is, I think it's one of those things that we human beings have. We are adaptable beings, and I think the more we put ourselves in these situations, the more we learn that really there are no limits. Like, we can really have anything and do anything we want, and everything else is just really constructs and limitations put on us by society. And then we have chosen to believe them to be true. So I absolutely love that. I have two more questions for you, and then we're going to switch into the second part of the interview. In terms of food, so I know our family, we prioritize healthy eating and living very, very much. So how do you tell us, how do you guys, approach this whole food situation? Like, where do you guys eat? And then if you know anything about, people who are, I don't know, like who do like healthy living, if you know anything about that kind of lifestyle, how can we do that?
Sure. So we're definitely not what I would consider like a healthy living family. But I don't think it would be very much different from what we do. Like, the biggest downside, I guess, is, and again, this is all dependent on the RV that you may have. So the RV that we have has a fridge and a freezer that is smaller than a typical household fridge and freezer. Now, I could not tell you like the cubic feet or whatever, because that's outside of my zone. I mean, I can fit gallons of milk in there, but not, you know what I mean? Like, it's just smaller. So we do shop more often. I would say that we're probably going to the store like twice a week, which it almost would be easier if you were buying all fresh foods, because you do have fresh foods twice a week. So, but it's just, we go about twice a week to get our perishables, because let me back up, I guess. When we were in the house, we would buy 3 gallons of milk at a time, because there are 6 of us, and we would go through 3 gallons of milk, before it would expire. We cannot do that here. We only have room in the fridge for 1 gallon of milk, when you consider the other things we also want to have in our fridge. If we only wanted milk, I'm sure we could fit 3 gallons, but so we have to go more often. We shop more often. We're a little more intentional with our meal planning. But honestly, we do take advantage of convenience food more often as well. So like, if it's a travel day, we typically drive about 4 hours, totally an estimate, an average. There's some days that we drive 3 hours. There's some days we're 2.5. We've been a couple times we drive 5, but we don't like to go too much more than 4. And we'll drive a couple hours, and then we'll stop somewhere, like a rest stop that might have a Denny's or a McDonald's or something, and we'll get lunch there, because it's convenient, because it's easier for us than packing healthy lunches for 6 people and then having to eat them on the road. So it would require more planning if you wanted to maintain, like a whole foods healthy lifestyle, but I don't think it would be undoable. We've got microwave, an oven, and a stove top in the RV. We bought a toaster that we store when we're not using it, and we pull out when we need it. And we do the same thing with our coffee maker, like our Keurig. And then we have a grill that we use a lot more often than the stovetop, because the stovetop can also heat up the house really quick, which in the winter right now doesn't really matter, but in the summer can be unbearable. So for that, we do a lot of cooking outside. So I kind of hope that I
Yeah.
don't know what else to say about food.
No, I totally assumed that convenience eating is going to be a part of it, because it sounds like, yeah, like, we're
But I mean, that being
traveling.
said, we do, I mean, there are convenience foods that we consider to be healthy, right? So like we'll get like the little to go yogurt containers and cheese sticks and apples, and I mean fruit is so easy to eat in the car. So and my kids love apples. So we'll bring like a 5-pound bag of apples and they'll go to town on those on a road trip. So we do, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like they're only eating cupcakes every day. They're not, but we do a lot of hot dogs, a lot of just pasta, mac and cheese. That's always kind of been our dietary habits, though. um, Peanut butter and jelly. I mean, we do a lot of sandwiches. For breakfast, eggs is definitely a favorite, and they're easy to do either on the stovetop or out on the grill. Grilled cheese on the grill. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, for me, I'm automatically thinking I would be buying some meat, and then I would be seasoning it and putting it into like a Ziploc and storing it into the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do when we go camping. But yeah, I mean, again, this is where the figuring things out, come in handy. It's really, I guess bottom line that I wanted to ask is it doable? Like, logistically? Yeah. Okay. Meaning we can take and transfer our, lifestyle that we practice here to the road. So that's what I wanted to know.
Just minor adaptions.
Yes. Okay. And then the last question I'm going to ask you, because I know ladies are wondering,
yeah,
how do you guys have sex in the RV when the kids are like right there?
So, yeah, I mean, and that was a concern, right? But that's something we still enjoy doing. So there's a couple things. And this is so funny because I don't normally talk about stuff like this, so I apologize. I'm probably going to be googly. So, I'm in a couple of groups for like full-time families, right, who are traveling full-time. And this is a topic that comes up in those groups sometimes. So of course I'm going to read through them and figure out what people say. Now, obviously some of this is coming from what people say because we've only bought and lived in one RV, so I can't really compare it to other RVs. However, I have heard that front to back motion is like less detectable or like less disruptive
by the kids
than side to side motion. Like side to side motion in
so
the
you
RV.
have like no, wait, don't rock me this way, no, go this way.
I mean,
which probably adds to the experience.
We have to go north and south. No. Get out the compass. No. Just like the way that you know what I mean? Like the way, even if you think about a car, like rocking it front to back is like a, I don't know, different experience than rocking it side to side, or like it rocks more when you go side to side. I don't know. I feel like I'm turning red. So our bed in the RV just happens to be one that is like front to back. So like number one, I'm like, oh, well, that's good. We bought the right orientation. And then,
but how about like sounds and like breathing, panting?
I've got one more thing before we get into that.
Okay. Say it.
So then, again, when you buy an RV, when you park it, you have to put these little like they're called chucks. You have to put them under the wheels so that the RV doesn't roll away. Which sounds, but it happened to us once. We didn't put them on, and it literally rolled away a little bit.
Oh my God!
Don't forget them. Like you need to put them on. So anyhow, we put those little things on, but they have these things called X chucks, and they're metal, and they form an X, and they go in between the tires. So the RV has 2 axles in the back, and then in the front is it's called a tongue jack. So, and then it's got stabilizing jacks. Gosh, I feel like that was a really bad bad description of what holds the RV up, but hopefully you're following along with me. So in the back, there's 2 wheels. So the X chocks go in between the 2 wheels. and they're much stronger than the little plastic pieces that you put under the wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So with those X chucks, it also helps ensure that the RV that the wheels physically cannot move. So it keeps it way more stable. And now, without even getting into sex, just talking about kids in general, I mean, when you've got 4 kids and 2 adults, just 4 kids, they jump around, they throw themselves on the bed instead of sitting on the bed. Mm-hmm. And these X chucks make the world of difference with rocking in the RV to begin with. So I think you can tell a lot about RV rocking when the kids are awake, to know like what it might be like when you're fooling around later. Right. Because you know how much the RV moves. So that was, I feel like movement was number one. There's a lot of jokes or whatever, like people say when the RVs are rocking, don't come a knocking. Like that's one of those things. Because I would assume from the outside, if someone's really going at it, then the RV, you could see the RV rocking. I don't know. I've seen signs and stuff that say that. So I think rocking was the number one thing. And as far as noise and stuff, I think we've just always been blessed to have really hard sleepers. And we normally just do fooling around at nighttime. Or if we're going to attempt to do something, and see, that's the thing, like our doors don't lock. Yeah. So any other time I it's a little unnerving that somebody could just open the door at any moment. So typically we focus on doing that at night. And my little 3 go to bed super early, and my oldest goes to bed before us. And
that's how you guys, but the point is that it is not happening because
right.
You are. Okay.
No.
Okay,
correct.
Cool. Okay.
That would have been a deal breaker, probably more on my end, but
really? Yay, you're my girl.
So, it's funny. One of my favorite, I've seen a towel, like a little, kitchen towel. I've also seen it on a lot of things, but it's one of my favorite little logos. It's a little RV and it says "We sleep around." And I just love that little
so cute. I love it too. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. This conversation is super, super fun. We have to have more fun.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now I would like to switch to the next part of the interview. So the second part of the interview is really about giving me and the listeners a window into you as a woman, into your how you take care of yourself, your self-care. So if that's okay with you, let's shift to the second part.
Sure.
Okay. And so the answers to these questions, they should be really, short, so that, we don't have another.
You have to give me that warning because I will talk forever.
I know. I'm the same way. Okay. So my first question is, what is your definition of feminine power?
Ooh, I would say it's being able to do whatever I want to do. Like, my sex, my gender, it doesn't hold me back. And in many cases it helps me,
Yeah. Love that. I love that. Okay. Second question. As you know, this show is all about inspiring mothers to own their power and feel more confident, energized, and sexy as women, wives, and mothers. And I like to call it being a goddess in your life. So I'm curious to know, especially now that you are RVing, how are you being a goddess in your own life? How do you take care of yourself, your soul, your body? What are some of your non-negotiables?
Man, and I think one thing I've realized is that travel is one of those things for me. And this has just been a whole year of doing that, being able to experience nature, like in so many different places. I feel like being near water, like these are all things that I didn't ever know were important to me. So it's been an experience that that made me realize some of the things that I need. And I've been able to seek those things out on a grander scale.
I love that. What makes you feel confident?
My kids. They're
Really?
so great. Yes. My kids, especially my 4-year-old. She is such a confidence booster. And as funny as it sounds, she's just started recording a podcast at
The
4.
little one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
We just submitted it to iTunes. I don't know that anybody's going to want to listen, but maybe other 4-year-olds will. Totally unprompted though. She'll say things like, my name's Roro and this is my best mommy ever, mommy.
Oh.
Like she, just, I don't know. I feel like I can do anything because they think I can do anything.
Oh, that's such a nice thing to say. It's so true. It's just, I know for me too. I'm a girl mom and my kids, it's not that I live for them. It's just that I feel like they give me so much motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
It's so true. What makes you feel energized? What energizes you?
These are tricky questions. Gosh, and I feel like I don't want to say the same answer for everything, but I feel like it's exploring new places and learning new things. The prospect of, and it's funny I feel like I could talk about this because it's your show. I'm on my period right now. Like, got my period yesterday. I should just want to sleep all day, but we've got learning to do today. Like, we are going to learn about the Alamo, and I'm going to experience that with the whole family. We're going to learn new things, and I'm so excited to do that I don't even care. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care how tired I am. I just want to go learn. So I think it's the learning process. Yeah, the learning process.
That's nice. What makes you feel sexy?
Oh boy, that one's tougher.
Okay, I have to ask this. Do you have a pair of high heels with you on the RV?
No, and I'm not, I've never really been, it's funny, I've never really been a high heel wearer. I am just over 5'10". So all my life I've been taller than everybody, I feel like. So I've never really worn heels because they made me even taller, and they've not been comfortable. Probably, oh shoot. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you heard that. Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah, so I've never really worn them. I don't know. That, like I said, that's a really hard one for me. I'm sorry. I think it would just be, I don't think that that's something I feel all the time, but I think it's something that comes out when, I'm able to kind of let loose and have time alone with my husband. So just in those moments, which are a little less frequent.
Now that you're traveling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. My next question is, what advice does your now mom self would have given to your pre-mom self?
I think I think it would be just to cherish the present, to live in the present. I think I spent a lot of time, and it's easy to do, especially as a new mom, to spend a lot of time waiting or wanting like this phase to pass, right? Like wanting the next phase to come. So, and I wish that you could just live more in the present, not think too much, not overthink things. Try new things, be a little bit more of a risk taker. And all that being said, I'm glad that everything worked out the way that it did, but also not to compare as much. I feel like my 4 kids are so different from each other. They learn differently. They learn at different rates. They're maturing differently. And none of them is wrong. And we had experiences in school where my oldest got, I don't know, I don't think disciplined is the right word, but they were just critical of how she was learning and at the time, I was very, oh, well, we need to make her fit into this educational box. And that's not true. So I think at this point, I've learned from my experiences that it's okay for kids to learn differently and grow differently. And we need to support them and not try to fit them in a box. And I kind of wish I had that outlook the whole time, but I've got it now. So
yeah, it's an evolution, definitely. Okay. The mother-daughter dynamic comes up a lot in my practice. And so not every woman is a mother, but every woman is a daughter. So how do you think that your relationship with your mom helped to shape who you are today?
Yeah, and that's a great question. My dad died when I was 12, so my mom was really it, she's kind of what I had left, my mom and then her mom. It's funny, it was really only females. I never really thought about that before because my grandfather also died when I was young. Anyhow, I definitely think she's always been a friend to me, somebody I could talk to. And that's what I wanted for my kids as well. And I think that's, don't get me wrong, I parent, I discipline, but they're also great kids. And I love that they can come to me with questions and we can have conversations. And I still feel that way about my mom, even though we're not living in the same place anymore. We're still very, very close. Yeah.
That's interesting. Just like in my case, I'm surrounded by women. I've been surrounded by women all my life. And it sounds like for you also, not only are you a mom of 4 girls, you also were raised by a mom without a dad, and then also a grandmother without a grandfather. It's just, it fascinates me.
Yeah, and I have a sister,
Oh.
and my mom has a sister. Like my mom's brother lives far away, or now he's since passed away. But we're a very female family.
Yeah,
and my husband fits right into that.
Yeah.
He embraces.
He embraces
all the girl power.
The femininity. Okay, cool.
He has to. When you're
he has to.
When you're a dad of 4 girls.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same. Okay, my last question for you, Meg, is in one sentence, what is your vision for your life? What are you creating? What is your life's purpose?
It's creating a legacy for my kids. Like I want to show them that anything is possible, that they can do anything, be anything, that they can have a dream and then make it come true. That's it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And I just I had a conversation with my oldest the other day. I know it's supposed to be one sentence. I'm so bad at that. You're going to fire me as a guest. But we were in the car and she was like, I can't wait till we get a house because she says, I know it's going to be like the coolest, best house. And I was like, you do? And she's like, yeah, because we have dreams and then they just come true. She's like, because like we dreamed about traveling and then we are. And I'm like, well, they don't just come true, right? Like they don't just come true. We work at them. We have to make them come true. And she's like, well, yeah, but we just do it. And I was like,
oh,
done.
That's amazing.
Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I hope she always keeps that. I hope my other kids get that. I hope they always keep that, to know that, like, no dream is too big, and that whatever you want to do, like, there is a way to do it. You just have to be crafty. You have to be nimble. You have to figure it out.
Best education ever. Best education ever. Like, I think this is it. This is it. It's amazing. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, Meg, please tell people, how can they connect with you? How can they find you online? Now is the time for all that.
Yeah, so my website is personally branded. It's megbrunson.com. When you go there, you can learn about me. You can learn about starting your own blog. You can learn about Facebook marketing. It's kind of where I post everything that I'm interested in. I do post a little bit about travel, but the best place to follow my travel adventures, which I think is honestly the most interesting, is on Instagram. My handle is at Family Road Ventures. So Family Road Ventures, and I post about all of the places we go and the things that we see. And I know I'm biased because I'm on this trip, but there's so much cool stuff out there. And I think that if you want to travel, you might enjoy going through some of those pictures. You might find something that you didn't realize you really wanted to see. That's one of the things we've discovered, is that there's so many hidden gems throughout the United States that we didn't even know would be worth visiting. So I would encourage you to go check that out and see some of the cool places that the US has to offer.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. And also your podcast, FamilyPreneur.
Yeah, too. Like I said, multi-passionate. I've got lots of things.
Do you want to mention your Facebook group as well?
You can listen to the podcast, FamilyPreneur. I mean, wherever you're listening to this podcast, you should be able to find that. It's all one word, FamilyPreneur. I've got a Facebook group called Familypreneurs, and it's, if you are a parent entrepreneur who is raising entrepreneurial kids, we've got some some entrepreneurial kids who have like legit businesses, like they're in Target and stuff. And then we've got other entrepreneurial kids who are kind of like my kids, like they're just kind of tinkering and they're learning, and there's no right or wrong way to be entrepreneurial, right? So if you fit that demographic, we'd love to have you in the group. I have a children's book too called ABCs of Business. So if you've got like a little one and you want to start to introduce them to entrepreneurship, that might be a cute, fun way to do it. And that's all on my website too. So lots of ways to connect with me.
Amazing. Meg, thank you so much. Thank you for living your best dream. Thank you for inspiring your kids that anything is possible, and that when we have a dream, we just make it happen. And, I know that's not easy, but so often, the simpler things might be simple, but it doesn't mean that they're easy. And I just really, this is such an inspiration for me. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with me. And for sure, I will be contacting you much more often with like, what do I do when this happened? And what do I do when this happens? And for sure, I'm going to join that group that you were sharing, because to me, travel has been a huge thing that I really desire and crave to do more. And I think that it's just so stupid that I allow like really silly things to stand in my way. So thank you for being that trailblazer. It means so much to me, and hopefully to the listeners as well.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Wait, before you go, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, I want to know about it. So snap a picture of you listening to this episode and share it on Instagram or Facebook. On Instagram, you can tag me at Dorit Palvanov Coaching. So Dorit is spelled as Dorit, and Palvanov spelled as Palvanov Coaching. So it's all one word. Or you can use the hashtag Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Podcast. You see, my personal goal beyond having amazing conversations with guests or hosting solo episodes is to increase the visibility for this platform and these messages to be shared and heard by women who need it the most. And there's no way that I can do this on my own. So I'm asking you, the incredible community of confident, energized, and sexy mamas, to help me with this goal. So whether you're coming to me through iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're listening to the show from, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. This would mean the world to me, and it's so helpful for other mothers who are looking for this information. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.